What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Stick dropping some hot fraga on this mic. Today we're actually going to be talking about the Sony PlayStation Showcase. I know it was like a day or two ago, and I know I'm late on covering it, but I just wanted to talk about it because I think it sets a precedent, I guess, for basically how I think the rest of summer announcements are going to go. And on top of that, I just want to talk about it because it's so interesting to me, because for Sony to really show up like this after not doing like E3 or Summer Games or any really big presentations that aren't like the random states of plays, which is their version of Nintendo Directs, it's kind of weird to me. So, Sony hasn't, again, done a presentation in a few years, so everybody was super excited, including myself. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be like the thing that causes Sony to blow it out of the water. You know what I mean? One of the biggest things is that I just think with all the success of the PlayStation 5, it's kind of weird that there's still not a ton of, blockbuster AAA next-gen exclusives. Now, I personally don't care because, if something comes to, say, for instance, the PlayStation 4, which a lot of people were upset that games were coming to the PS4 for a myriad of reasons, some valid, some invalid, I just don't care because that means more people get to play the game. The game was already probably in development for the PlayStation 4, and then they decided to move development to PlayStation 5. So, you get the best of both worlds. If you're broke and can't afford a PS5, you get to play the game still. And if you have a PS5, you get the best version of the game. But on top of that, while it wasn't a bad presentation, it wasn't good. And that's for a few reasons. It has actually a lot of the same reasons as the 2020 Xbox E3 presentation, which, it means it's a lot of announcements and really no gameplay. So while they had a lot of stuff to tell us is coming out, they wouldn't tell us when things were coming out or really, show any gameplay. So let's talk about it. I'm going to talk about the good and the bad and actually some more detailed stuff in between. And specifically, like, what announcements I think mattered the most. But with that all out of the way, let's begin. Alright, so like I, talked about at the beginning of the video, I just really think PlayStation, or more so Sony, has really dropped the ball. Here's the worst of it though. I just really think there was nothing bad in terms of just something looking awful. It's just really that overall lack of gameplay. And don't get me wrong, some of those games can actually get away with it. Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is the Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake, actually gets a pass, mostly because we've seen Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater before. We know what the game plays like. Whether they update the gameplay or not, it's just one of those things that a lot of people will get excited for just because they know a remake of really one of the greatest games of all time, arguably the best game of all time, in my opinion, before Breath of the Wild. They just know that it's coming out and they get excited. I personally am really excited about the game. Or even something like Marathon, which is actually a reboot of Bungie's series that they did before the Halo series. They're remakes and reboots, so I just think that when people see something like that, they actually get really excited versus something like Concord. Well, the visuals of the CG trailer looked nice for Concord. I don't know what it is. I don't get the spaceship in the hamburger in the spaceship refrigerator. I don't understand what's going on. And while there's a positive to this that I'll talk about a little bit later in the video, things like that and Fair Games, which looks to be kind of like a Cyberpunk Payday, which is what I'm assuming it would be because it looks like a heist-based shooter, it's just not gameplay. So while I may be able to even surmise what I'm looking at, there's no gameplay to back it up, so I can't really get excited because they're new IPs. And I feel like when you show off a new IP, you really should show off some gameplay to show, what you got. And then on top of that, I just think they pace things weirdly. They would always do like a stretch of CGI and then a stretch of gameplay and do it instead of doing some gameplay, CGI. Like the beginning of it was really, really gameplay heavy outside of the Fair Games announcement. And then there was just nothing but like CGI announcement trailers, which don't get me hyped. I'm gonna keep it real with you. It just makes no sense in general. But then at the end of it, another thing that I think they announced that just shouldn't have been announced here was the streaming handheld that, Sony was rumored to be working on. Now, I have quite a few issues with this. First of all, it looks atrocious. well, it may or may not be comfortable. It just looks like one of those cheap iPega controllers with a tablet slapped on top of it. On top of that, famously, the DualSense controllers have a lot of drift. So are these controllers similar to the DualSense in that regard? Like, I've had my PS5 for 6 to 7 months at this point, and both of the controllers that I have with my console have already started to drift. So what can I expect from this handheld? On top of that, it's streaming based and not native gameplay. So there's just going to be some latency, and you will always have to have a connection, and it's actually based off of streaming directly from your console using, the PlayStation 5's Remote Play. And if you've ever used Sony Remote Play, you know that it is bad. It is genuinely garbage. I do not know how they get away with having such bad Remote Play. For reference, I have gigabit internet, and whether it be over Wi-Fi or 5G ultra wideband, I cannot seem to actually get a good signal from my PlayStation 5. There's so much latency. While the image may look good, it's just never fun to play. I've tried doing it with my iPad, I've tried doing it with my phone, I've even tried it on PC. Just none of them are good, and that's the issue. Also, they didn't even announce the name, they just said Project Q, which tells you it's early in development. But what is this going to be priced at? Because if it's anything really over $150, it is a waste of time and money. And I think the only reason why Sony is releasing this is because I think they want to try to get ahead of Microsoft doing the same. Right now, Microsoft, while Xbox may not be doing the greatest on the planet, a lot of people are subscribed to Game Pass, and a lot of people use Game Pass in the mobile sphere, especially with a lot of dedicated handhelds for Game Pass or streaming games in general. Most notably the Logitech G Cloud, but one I can actually think of that recently came out is called the Absolute or the ABXY route. It's a $200 handheld based on Android, and from what I know, it does a good job at streaming games. On top of that, Microsoft just has, I guess, a better streaming infrastructure, whether it be Remote Play or playing directly from the cloud off your Xbox phone, computer, iPad, whatever it is. It just seems that Sony hasn't really gotten that down, so for them to release something like this is very bold because their infrastructure is just not good enough for it. They're trying to compete with Microsoft in an area I don't think they need to compete with Microsoft in. While I do think to some degree streaming is the future of gaming, which I'm not saying I like, but that's where I think it's going, I think they're going about it in the most roundabout and rushed way possible. And I think that's mostly because of a fear of being toppled. And I just don't like that, especially when they have such blockbuster hits and they have so many of them coming out every year and they have a lot of exclusives. I mean, Final Fantasy 16 isn't even a game that they are making themselves, but it's exclusive to the Sony PlayStation. So why release something like this? I just feel like they should have released something that probably is as capable as maybe an Xbox Series S or something like that, and then made that a handheld and make it play at least PlayStation 4 games, if not PlayStation 5 games. Because it's very obvious that they want to keep the PS4 in the conversation because they don't have that $300 console that Microsoft has that they can personally take a hit on. I just hope this thing is really low in price and that the controls are really good, and hopefully they redesign it because it looks goofy, it looks slapped together. I don't really think they thought about that, console all that much. They could have released something like the new Razer handheld that came out and just used a backbone controller and people would have been fine with that. But all in all, that was the worst of it. Now, I do, while I may not sound like I have a lot to say that was good, I think the good overshadowed the bad. First of all, the showcase was at its best when it was showing off games. Even things that I really didn't care about, like Helldivers, got shown off, and I thought that was pretty cool. On top of that, they showed off Dragon's Dogma 2, which actually looked pretty cool, and now I kind of want to get into Dragon's Dogma because I saw that trailer and the gameplay from there. On top of that, they showed off Assassin's Creed Mirage, which we know is coming to Xbox, PC, as many platforms as Ubisoft can put that game on. It honestly looks pretty good and like a return to the original Assassin's Creed formula, but also a lot more polished. One of my issues, I guess, with the early Assassin's Creed up until like really Black Flag was it didn't really feel like it was as polished as it could be. And it didn't really feel good, at least to me, to play. But Assassin's Creed Mirage actually looks really cool. And then there's this game called Phantom Blade Zero, which looks amazing. At first I was kind of worried that it was going to be another like Souls-like, because I'm getting kind of drained of seeing those types of games. There's nothing wrong with that genre of action RPG, but I'm just tired of seeing every game trying to be like that. This actually looks like a proper character action game, and the way they kind of approach attacking multiple enemies and defending from multiple enemies at once is really smooth. Like, I am genuinely surprised nobody has talked more about this game, because I think it looks sick. And then also we had some showings from Square Enix, some more Final Fantasy 16, but more importantly, a game called Foam Stars, which looks actually like a kind of a cool take on the Splatoon formula. The only thing that worries me about it is that it has a severe lack of visibility, which is kind of a key component to Splatoon. I don't know, every game that they showed gameplay of actually did look kind of cool or compelling. It's just they either weren't big massive titles, they were indie titles, or they were PlayStation VR 2 titles. And that's not to take away from indie titles or PlayStation VR 2, it's just I know they're not going to be at the scale of something like a AAA game. And I'm not going to get that AAA experience necessarily from those types of games. Because while especially the indies looked really nice, I didn't care a lot about them, if that makes any sense. There were just no big games to supplement those indie games in the presentation, at least. Especially considering a lot of things didn't have release dates. But also, while I'm kind of upset that we may not be getting gameplay, studios that were acquired by Sony are starting to announce games, so we're actually starting to see the fruits of their labor. Again, most notably, Bungie. I am glad that Bungie is doing something that's not Destiny 2. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't care for Destiny 2. I don't like it. It's not even that I don't like the genre, I just don't find the game enjoyable. And I'd really like Bungie to make something else that's not Destiny 2, especially since they're not working on Halo. And Microsoft missed that opportunity years ago. Like, Marathon is supposed to be, I guess, this extraction-based 6v6 shooter, which I think is pretty cool. So hopefully we get to actually see some gameplay from it soon, so I can get hyped for it at least. But the best thing from that show had to be Spider-Man 2, hands down. Honestly, it's everything I wanted from a sequel to the original game. And don't get me wrong, I actually like Miles Morales a lot, but that game felt like a really big DLC or, kind of a side game rather than, a true sequel to Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. The visuals were over the top amazing. The gameplay looked like a genuine improvement over everything we've gotten with the past two games, especially when they added the glider, and it looks like they kind of mapped the abilities in a more intuitive way. And on top of that, the combos look a lot more fun and satisfying to do. I don't know. It just seems like Insomniac keeps delivering something every year with the PlayStation 5. Like, they have not missed these past 3 years. They've had Miles Morales, they've had Ratchet and Clank, they've had Spider-Man Remastered. They cannot miss. And while I think there should have been a bit more gameplay, because obviously Spider-Man 2 was carrying this entire showcase. If it weren't there, I think people would be on the internet saying this was absolute garbage. I just think there should have been more gameplay and some dev commentary. It still was an amazing showcase for the game, and I know I'm picking up the game day one when it releases in fall 2023, which sucks because we know it's coming out this year, but still haven't gotten a release date. We only have about 6-7 months left in the year, and I don't think they're releasing it in December. They're probably going to release it between September, like the original game, and November. I just like to see, I guess, a release date so I know when it's coming out, and I can commit that $70, however much and change or whatever, to pre-ordering the game. Honestly, while there was a lot of good and the bad kind of really derailed it, I don't think this was the worst presentation Sony's ever had. I just really hate that Sony, who hasn't had a big presentation like this in years, didn't come out swinging like they could have. And there was really a missed opportunity on their part to have something that really knocks everybody's socks off. But right now, everybody's going to be looking forward to what other companies are going to be doing, which there's nothing wrong with that. Sony's the top dog. I don't think they're going to get knocked off of that spot anytime soon. It's just kind of sad considering the PlayStation 5 has been out like 3 years now, 2-3 years, and really I don't have any true exclusive games to that platform at the moment. But I don't know. Tell me how you feel in that comment section down below. This has been your man Hastags. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video out with your friends. Watch out for my Tears of the Kingdom video. It's going to actually be a Mob Shattuck 100. I know I said I wasn't going to do any more of those, but this game really kind of deserves it, and I kind of want to pay special attention to detail with that game in that video. So just let me know how you feel in that comment section down below, and how you felt about the Sony showcase, and overall, what would you like to see Sony do next time around when they have a State of Play or another big showcase. But this is me, your man Hastags. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video out with your friends. Remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blue Saga, and check out some of my other videos. Peace, and have a good one. Follow your boy on Twitter, and join the Discord down below.